Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wits Business School. We are delighted to have you here, and thank you for taking time to come to Wits Business School to attend this what promises to be an exciting and informative and illuminating discussion about this case that has been written by Dr. Judy Dlamini and working with entrepreneurs from Khonology Digital Solutions. Michael Roberts, Dapo Ayedemo, African Nkosi and Mosa Nyamande. And my name here is Soko, Professor at Wits Business School and Director of Development and Partnerships Institute. It's a very simple just to welcome you and to say that I'll be the MC this evening, Program Director. But tonight is about Dr. Judy and the entrepreneurs that have blessed me their presence this evening. So we look forward to that. And before we get underway, I would like to invite Professor Maurice Khadebe, who's the Director and Head of School at Wits Business School, to make some introduction welcome remarks. Over to you, Maurice.
Yes. Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you well. Thank you very much.
Good to have you, Michael. Thank you very much. All right. Sanmulan. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. That's good to zoom. What is that different? Greetings. First, welcome all of you, and thanks you very much. Brahmins, I call it Brahmins. Don't call it Brahmins. So I'd like to welcome my dean here, Jason Cohen. There he is. When he's here, we feel supported with all the initiatives that we are busy with. Also, I'd like to thank and welcome because when I say in high school many years ago, don't ask when. Dr. Judy Dlamini, not only is she Dr. Judy Dlamini, but she's our biggest boss here, boss of the bosses, Dr. Chancellor. You see, you know, it's this round of applause. I understand this, yeah, that's it. But she's here, but so thank you very much for graciously coming to facilitate this session and writing the case study. Yes, you young men, you must know that you can't get better than that. To get an author like Judy to come and write your case study. This to me is a very special event, in fact, a little bit emotional. Because I know them 14 years ago, we used to now they are being settlement. Very young. And there's another one who's also walked in. The fourth and another three, they were founding mentees of ULP Foundation, which is you know, they were just out of school, university, and they wanted to be mentored, and we met at my home, and the rest is history. To see them here now, it's really emotional for me. So thank you very much. You're a good role model for many others that are coming after you. Let's get to the business. Yeah, let's move on. You know, actually, the case study demands hours of time, discussions, research, particularly at Wits. We're very rigorous. We want higher standards, and it's very important that we stick to that. And then writing, and then editing, and then everyone's going through approval process. And Dr. Dlamini, she is so busy, but she had the time and the commitment and the passion to write this case study. So I'm really grateful that you, given the stature and the amount of your time you've actually invested in this. We do have a case study center here at Wits Business School. It's been around for a very long time. It's produced 350 cases. They are now shared throughout the whole world, and they're winning worldwide even competitions. And the reason why we're writing case studies is because we want to tell our stories, our African stories. You know, it's good to hear about Steve Jobs, but I want to hear about Africa. You know, I want my grandchildren to hear about Africa. It's good to hear about Jack Wells, but yeah, we want more stories. Are you with me? I'm just coming from a conference we started yesterday, today. It's all the business school leaders in the continent, by through about 100 of us there. We are discussing about how do we really make sure that business schools produce the leaders that will actually achieve the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. How many of you know it? Raise up your hand. So that's the first assignment. If you don't know it, go ahead and read it. 2063, Sister Julie, I'm not too sure we'll be around. But when is that it's very important. I'm actually challenging you. What's going to read it? You must know what is the Africa we want. And how is the business school going to play a role in making sure that we do that? And obviously, digital and technology is going to play a role in doing that. And that is why we've chosen to have these young leaders to do this. I also like to acknowledge Claire is not here. Claire is our center manager. She's overseeing this process and produced a lot and lots of case studies over years. And also want to acknowledge you, the guests, all of you who are here. Why don't you talk to us for yourselves? And the students that are here, it's going to be good for you to see this, and all the people who organized this work, particularly Medupi and the event management team, and see Alison is also here, and all the team that really do all the great work. It's going to be a stimulating and a very informative discussion. And then, yeah, finally, I really like to welcome you, three founders. You know, there's also this whole discussion about the founders' mindset. So, and this is Dapo, and then Africa and Mosa. These are the three young men that will hear their stories. I'm sure you are realizing that this is now putting you on a map. And they were very intentional about making sure that we put this story to the entire world. You dare not disappoint us. You dare not disappoint us. Are you ready? So you're going to have to continue to succeed, which is what you know from, that's what we're teaching about the DLP, and succeed and lift as you rise. So on that note, I would like to hand over to our facilitator and our leader. Thank you very much.
I ask Dapo Africa and Mosa to join me. Good evening. Thanks very much, Prof. Hadebe. And thanks very much, Prof. Mills. I want to recognize my dean at different levels, Prof. Cohen. It's an honor to be here. And also, Michael. I wish I could see your face, Michael, but it's okay. It's an honor to see your face. Welcome. Yeah. No, it's an honor to be here. I feel like, you know, when you're doing something for the first time, writing a case study for the first time, And the young people in the room will be like, oh, but she's a bit old for first time anyway. But that's part of the fun. Prof. Hadebe was talking about why this matters to me at a personal level, right? In 1998, that's how many years ago? 26. Before the case center was started, I was here as an MBA student. And I always got concerned because we used to read about cases from the global north. And everyone here knows that there's context associated with business. Every business is influenced by the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and every country, especially the continents, have different entrepreneurial ecosystems. But we were reading about these countries or these people or businesses that were actually, we couldn't relate to them the same way we could if it was from here.
Check the sound. Can you all hear?
The funny thing is that I asked for this. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I'm happy that the thing that concerned me, we have solved for well before actually I even left business school. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I'm so grateful that Prof. Hadebe introduced me to Khonology because they represent everything that I aspire for the young people in this country. A values-driven business and staying the hardship, 10 years, right? And obviously I'm biased because I'm a Wits. It all started here. So I would like to run this. Each one will introduce themselves. We'll spend half the time. Who's keeping the time for us? How much time do we have? Perfect. Okay. We'll spend about 40 minutes.
6 o'clock.
6,
Yeah, so
6:30.
and then we can open for
6:30.
Okay, so up to 6. Okay, that's fine. So, and then I'll open it to the floor so that we have a fireside chat that is inclusive. So on my side, on my right, there's Dapo. He'll tell you what he does for the company. And then there's Africa, and then there's Musa, and you've seen Michael in the production space. And this, Claire, was very helpful because to actually do something you've never done before, it gets actually been tougher with age. She was very helpful holding my hand, but I'm grateful to you guys for giving of your time. You know, in academia, you need people who actually give of their time, who share their experiences, their life experiences for us to learn from them. So I'll kick off with the very first question. We start at the beginning. Take us back to Wits. Not even 10 years ago, 13 years ago. Over to you, Dapo.
So what I is that I never had a great student card. But I pretty much use the campus better than most students at Wits. How it really started is that I was studying undergrad and I bumped into Africa. He was starting with stats, so I had to help him. That's how the journey started. But I also met Mosa through a common connection. And fortuitously, we came across these German students who were looking to start up a new venture in SA. So the concept that was very mature in the German market, and that was the concept of a student consultancy, where essentially the company would run and the company would provide different consulting projects, but it would totally comprise of students. And the benefit for that is that as a student, you know the type of odd jobs that you get on your CV before you graduate don't really master anything, and it doesn't look like a differentiator on your CV. So what we were trying to do is to get students real life job experience while they were studying, to pretty much set them up for real world experience when they actually go into the job market. So looking at that project, we're able to essentially be friends. We're still here till this day, for better or worse. And I think Africa's the stats master now, so I've done my job. It was literally inspired by a group of students who had a totally different take on the world and who were fearless in what they did. And that pretty much imagined in us, what has inspired into Khonology, a company that we've been running for around 11 years now. So yeah, that's the nucleus. Started at Wits, the great role lecture theatres there at the bottom, if anyone's from Wits. Yeah, that's where we started off.
And so much has happened since. And one of the questions I have for both of you is, now that you're stats fundy, and I understand that you were taught by my dean here, information systems, how did the learnings from this teach you to be the person that you are? And what do you wish you learned from this that made you better prepared?
Yes, thank you. I'd say the biggest takeaway from Wits for me was the analytical rigor, the process of thinking and problem solving. This doesn't play that edge. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned, problem solving and that analytical rigor. And one thing that I wish I learned, fortunately, I'd actually say I learned a lot of the practical side of business through the Consulting Academy, which is the business we started while we were at Wits as students. So I think that complemented my knowledge a whole lot and when it comes to business. So I think those two came together to really help me with the entrepreneurial skill set. Yeah, I think that's how I'd summarize it. The analytical rigor and then learning practical business lessons. Like the business is very practical. So yeah, I learned that from the Consulting Academy.
I think I will jump, I'll come back to you, Africa. But I want to jump to Michael because you started this business and while you actually started the business, before you actually started, when you were still consulting, you met with Michael. And he started throwing business your way. When you explain it to the audience, the connection and what came out of the connection. But what I would like to hear from you, Michael, you were in the UK for 13 years, right?
Yeah.
And then you come back to South Africa and you see these youngsters. Not only do you help them with the consulting business, but you actually buy into their vision. What actually sold it for you? Why? Why did you do that?
I think the biggest reason I believed in them was because of their attitude. I think they were hungry, which is what we want. They were keen to learn. They were super driven, which is what we're always looking for in people. And they really reinforced the narrative that Africa does have talent. And we want to shift away from that begging bowl mindset to that empowerment mindset. We've done a good day's job. Please provide us a remuneration for our services. And in that journey, we kind of reinforced the model. They are the originals. They went through the course themselves. They did everything that everybody else in Khonology has ever done. They did from day one. They paid their dues with their attitude, their willingness to do things without being paid always, the ability to always be present and work extra hours. And that just made a tremendous value and just reinforced the narrative that we can find talent, we can develop amazing people in Africa, and particularly in the banking sector where we were working in at the time, the narrative that everyone was saying there's no skills or talent in Africa. And we proved that misconception very boldly, and I'm very proud to be part of Khonology and what the young guys have done.
Thanks very much. Can you clap to that, please? One of the things that I can relate to, can you hear me? Oh, perfect. That's better? Oh, thanks. One of the things that I love about their belief and their value-driven entrepreneurship is They didn't go to UCT or Stellenbosch. They actually went to previously disadvantaged, and I always like to say perpetually disadvantaged universities because they remain disadvantaged. And I would love to know what informed that. People your age to actually say, big business doesn't go there to look for talent. And we have people that have talent, will unearth them. What informed that in your upbringing to believe that everyone has talent? We just need to find it and nurture it.
So I think initially our mission was to prove that Africa has talent. And the reason why we wanted to do that is when we first started and we were looking to implement these great IT projects in financial services sector, everyone said you won't find any skills here. The continent's underserved, doesn't have the right people, but if you can get somebody, with a fancy accent to come from Africa, that's right. And we couldn't for the life of us understand that. And I think it might be different for each person, but it goes back to the individual journeys, right? The number of times everyone said, no, you don't fit the mold, you don't speak the right way, you don't look the right way, you weren't born in the right household, whatever the case may be. So I think for me, it was always trying to prove the right, that we prove people wrong in the sense that it's not as linear as we think. Success is not as linear as we think, and talent is not as linear as we think. So what we were based on that, I think that the country Africa actually does have talent. It was almost something that was enforced because we would go to Wits and Wits, institute Ivy schools, and the students would look at you like, sorry, what's this coming from? What's the company from? And you're like, Khonology, no, it's right. So I realized we want to have a mission to prove that Africa has talent. We cannot start serving a subset of Africa. True transformation and true movement is not in a vertical that looks the right way. It's not in a vertical that sounds the right way. And we can't flip to another side and say, what are the core items that we're looking for? And we're able to pretty much identify two things, which is attitude, aptitude, and the desire to succeed. If anybody has that, regardless of what the educational background is, regardless of what their financial upbringing is, as long as they have those three pieces, they will be set up for success. And we started with that process with 7 young individuals. I remember we were busy in a garage with my business and others, trying to train 7 guys on banking and financial services. And these guys came from, a wide range of universities. I recall, I always joke with Africa to say, when the fees must flow, which is happening, we see in the trenches. People were once we see that in Greeks. And then we went to University of Switzerland. And the guys are like, oh, what are you guys doing here? Like, we were suspicious to say, no, you guys are working to recruit people from here. And you guys must have a change of things. So it's that type of thing where if you look at the raw talent and you invest in the raw talent, that's where you see the exponential growth. And the only way for us to get the continent where it needs to be is to start tapping into the exponential growth. So we always try to say the whole that there's a little bit of money, but a little bit of ventures. But at the end of the day, if you're a hiker here, when you get to the summit, it means worth it, right? So that's what we're trying to enforce in terms of how we look at talent.
Great. Anything to add to Mosa Africa?
I think that was covered quite well, but I think there's so much passion behind in finding the talent, the long drives, finding young guys, as this one that always resonates with me, which is Paramani Muthu. I remember when Mike and I grilled him for an interview, he was in construction and drilling and stuff like that. This is a chap with an IT degree. And it makes sense. And Mike is like, man, can you step away from when it's loud? I was like, I can't. He says, listen, I'm working. And we had that interview, in his uniform, etc. Long and short of it, PK got poached from us. I Standard Bank in global markets. He's a frontline analyst in that space. And I think these are stories which are very important because the ripple effect that TK had at the back of him joining Khonology was massive. I probably can count a good 11 other University of Zululand people that came through to Khonology shortly after that. Some came from tough circumstances. They had kids early. Ekaya, there was no money, all types of stuff that just happens in those areas where you would easily write it off because they don't come from the hotels or whatever, they don't speak in a specific language. But that's what we were here for, to be the bridge that changes that narrative. And it was good because Michael brought in that seniority muscle to say, we need to listen to these guys. And we were lucky also to be on the ground and being able to become the player that you can deliver world-class solutions.
One of the things, thanks very much for that. One of the things that is exemplary is that you took the course together with those 7 employees that you started off with. And not only that, you then for 6 months didn't get paid. Michael wasn't paid for a year. But when you started to get paid, it was the same salary as those 7 employees. That actually just shows a value system that's second to none because we love early gratification. The first income, actually it's not even income, it's money that comes in that actually you owe to the people that have supplied you with the services or product. You buy a BMW. You didn't do any of that. It hasn't been easy, obviously. I would like to believe, for 10 years. It's 2 questions, and I would like Michael and everyone to chip in. How have you evolved at a personal level, and how has the business evolved over the past 10 years?
So I like to consider the business as a human being. So we had our infancy stage where we couldn't even work, couldn't even wipe our nose. It was highly care that was required. Everything felt like a mission. Doing payroll felt like a mission. I remember we would literally look at the bank accounts, Michael would be on the phone with me. Michael, way to do everything because we didn't know any better. And then we got into one of the types of ways where we could see something was flowing, but we were still making issues that we had to kind of iron out. But I would say in the first 3 years of the business, we were very fortunate to actually start off with some future plans. So that does help significantly just from a reputation and just from a execution point of view. But I think in the latter 3 years, so 3 to 6 years, that's when we started experiencing really rapid growth. To some we say we were hyper-scaling. And there's a journey as an entrepreneur where you understand what matters to you. Writing nice and having the good numbers and being able to say I did ABC. It's a certain period of time, but it's not aligned to what you're trying to do, and it's not aligned to your vision. It's very myopic in it. And one of the biggest outputs that entrepreneurs is that they chase very short-term profit maximization. Right, it's revenue growth, and we must become sustainability of that. So I would say for the 3 to 6 years, we were those reality members, we did everything, but tier cost. And I think after we moved on from that teenage adolescent phase, we moved on to more of a mature model, which is now serving us quite nicely. And I think when I was a teenager, we had to find ourselves first. And at some point in time, it felt like we're taking it from our brain and taking it from our fingers and our purpose. And the thing about business is that we can work long enough that something will come. And it will come in this way without brain, and we will be very uncomfortable. Those are the lessons that you learn. And I think that's sort of shaped how we have essentially grown in the business. we will mention like some of the roles that we played. So I have a accounting background from school, but Michael was in finances, and it might have been I was at my with my this book on my hand, it was studying accounting law. I'll keep saying my this way. I thought it was not so much finances are where those directions are finance department, but then I realized I actually don't like this accounting thing. It was not for me. It was not so I did not become a CEO. This is initially working on from a structural educational perspective, and then into myself, I have things that we're good at. Which is also a very important concept to consider when you say, I'm going to school to study a certain thing. And sometimes they isn't done because what you study or what you're good at. I was fortunate to be in the right environment, and myself also in the right environment, to gravitate what I'm actually good at. And I think that's how, from my personal perspective, that's how I've changed throughout the different phases of the company. Yes.
Thanks. I'd echo what Dapo has said. I think that part of finding yourself, business will really do that to you. It will really, it will shape you to an extent where you have to really be true to your values. It's an environment that really tests what you really believe and what you really value, and kind of puts you in a situation where you have to invest in what's important to you. So I think that's one of the biggest blessings of being in business. I think it gives you that opportunity to stay true to yourself, to do work that is truly meaningful to you. So I think that's one of the things I appreciate about the business. It does come with a lot of challenges. I think one of the ways I put it is that it sort of forces humility. It doesn't give you too much room to get a big head and think you're great at all of this. Like that was saying, we're seeing the numbers, we're winning awards, we're getting all this recognition at a very early age. I mean, 2016, 2017, we had just been out of varsity for what, 5 years or so. No, not even that, 3 or 4 years. So achieving all of that success or perceived success at a very early age can go to your head, and kind of risky as entrepreneurs. But I think one thing I appreciate is that as a team with Michael, Africa, Dapo, and myself, we've been true to our values, and we've had that accountability system where we stay true to our values and we're able to call each other out. And I think that's one thing I value about the business. So that's how it's helped me grow as an individual. Regarding my in the business, in the beginning, it's you're chief of everything, doer of everything, from CVs to what my nickname in the company amongst us was Bob the Builder. Because in the office, after sending emails to clients and reading CVs, I'd be busy with screwdrivers, fixing fridges, fixing the toaster. There's this infamous toaster we had, the sandwich maker, which every 2 days just break. I don't know why, and I'd constantly be fixing that. On top of sending proposals, reviewing contracts, CVs, and negotiating with the landlord. I mean, you sort of have to do everything. So in the early days, the title was operations. The titles were operations, I think HR, and then business development, Michael being CEO, but all of us did everything, without exception, from driving to buying groceries. Also, our training, we take turns going to buy groceries, bread, milk, all of that stuff for the training. So we really used to do everything. Once the business matured a bit, we were able to hire several people, sort of settled into some roles. Where now, my role is head of delivery. It's a very fancy title, fancy work that I do, which I enjoy very much. So I think that's been the evolution of the business and my role in the business, but also my personal growth as well. Right.
Yeah, speaking of groceries and stuff like that, I think it's an amazing metaphor, Doctor, in the sense that nothing was beneath us. You do the smallest of things, and at the same time, you have the opportunity of sitting in front of the likes of Sim Shabalala, And I think It's very important from an entrepreneurial point of view to always remember that you need to get your hands dirty. You need to understand stuff, and even if there's no capacity to do it by somebody else, take the initiative, go an extra mile. Titles such as head of operations and delivery and CEO don't mean that you don't get your hands dirty. I remember Mike used to fly from Cape Town to Joburg, and he also go buy groceries too. Meanwhile, he was on TV on CNBC a few minutes ago. And I think I enjoy that. It's a great metaphor for me in life. Those are things that I'd like to share with mates, brothers, sisters, kids, etc., to say that none of this needs, because especially in this continent, that's what we need. We need to not shy away from doing the hard yards, hard work, as Michael put it, the unsexy work. Don't be afraid. Because once you're able to go down the ground, once you come up, you speak with so much conviction because you've seen how things have been from the top as opposed to the surface. So we appreciate the marketing, we appreciate the noise, we appreciate the brand recognition. That is fantastic. But there's a lot more depth that you need behind these names that we wear. And the only way you can do that is by doing those small things, such as buying groceries.
Actually, that's very interesting, because one of the things I love about your values is what I call GAG, gratitude, humility, empathy, compassion, kindness. And when you look at entrepreneurs, at least some of them that we come across, it's really about dog eat dog. So there's no humility there. It's no compassion there. It's dog eat dog. And arrogance is also part of it. And more importantly, it's the bottom line, get the highest margin at the expense of everyone and everything, but you don't do it that way. And I do pray that you sustain that, like Prof. Ayedemo was saying, to say, continue having the value system that you've always had, don't change in the next 10 years. Michael, talking about the evolution over the past 10 years, I have to share this story. So when I interviewed Michael, I listened to him. He's so passionate about teaching, mentorship, coaching. And Dean, I thought, you know what? This Michael, when he's done with what he's doing, he must come be a lecturer here.
Definitely.
He's really passionate about sharing the knowledge that he has. He's passionate about the continent, and he's passionate about the talent that the continent has. One of the things that I think has evolved when it comes to your teaching, the 6-week program has now become 8 weeks. And one of the things I like is how actually before you go to the economy and the business of the clients, you talk about values. Talk about how you've seen the evolution in what you do for Khonology over the past 10 years and where to in the next 10.
Is this for me?
That's for you, Michael.
I think the biggest evolution is the joy in seeing the dream realized and how it actually happens. The ability to drive enthusiasm and share my enthusiasm with other people, get them to appreciate that enthusiasm as well. I think also the fact that we identified talent and they could see the future. From day one, the succession plan was always to make sure that they own and operate the business properly. So I was pretty hard on them about that. And I think because they were the identified potential future, so I kind of put a lot of extra effort into the three of them with some extra time and extra coaching. There were many hours at 2-3 o'clock in the morning when Musa was doing backflips. We had to do proposals in a couple of hours. And so those are the things where they learned that you have to do your time. There are no shortcuts to success, and it's what you put in is what you get out. And I think that narrative is very key to the attitude that we want to define. I think the future for me is we've proven it. It's doable, it's achievable, it's actual, and I think the reality is we need to scale it.
Great. Thank you so much. I think I would like to now invite you to the fireside chat. We'll take the first 3 comments or questions, and then you can direct them directly to the person that you want to ask. But if you actually just asking everyone, that's fine too. The first question or comment. Otherwise, I'll ask you questions. Please say your name.
My name is Lazo Landamasa. Lazo Landamasa.
Lazo, okay.
Currently a student here at Wits Business School, MBA. So thanks, gents, and this is a great. Okay, thanks, gents. This was very informative, and I think what you've done here is really incredible. What I wanted to find out was I haven't yet grasped the essence of what you actually do as a digital solutions company. Do you actually consult or do you contract? I'm just trying to get the operating model so that I can also ask questions on top of that.
I have to apologize for that. In my mind, there's a case study that was circulated. I know people haven't read it, but when I prepared myself, that's what I had in mind. Thanks very much for that, Lazola. Dapo?
I thought it have 6 mics.
So Khonology is a digital services company, and just a bit of information when it comes to the technology space. You have various layers that do management consulting, basically, helping strategizing the IT strategy. And then you have a layer that basically executes that strategy. So our strength, our capability, and what we are known for is being able to deliver and execute that. So the apps on your phones, be it Standard ABSA, FAB, and Cobra, that's Khonology basically behind those applications. Our ability is to scale businesses, empower businesses, as well as being able to empower the people through technology, software development, data capability, data science, AI, buzzwords. That's what we do on a daily basis.
So now I guess my second question, because now I understand what you're doing, sorry to take up time, but I'm doing currently my research proposal on AI, so maybe that's why. But essentially, do you guys, I know that you mentioned that you're currently in a mature phase. I hope you're still in growth as well, because there is so much growth to go on that type of service. Do you have plans to expand your market reach to across the border, or is it still pretty much concentrated in establishing good base here in South Africa?
Sorry. So I think I'll just project my voice because you are doing a marathon.
Okay. So Khonology has always been Africa focused, not South Africa focused. And intentionally so, because we realized that we were going to be able to empower South Africa quite seamlessly. But we knew that the challenge that we had was way bigger than our borders. We have been working across Africa. In fact, Mosa's made a couple of trips in the likes of Ghana, Rwanda. I mean, Dapo does a whole lot of work with Nigeria, Seychelles, if I'm not mistaken. Swatini is actually another one, where we do quite a lot of work. And we fortunately insist that the clients that we work with also work across multiple African countries. We will always be Africa first. We are proud of it. We make noise about it. So what you just mentioned, whether it's in AI, blockchain, whatever it is, it always needs to circle back to Africa.
That's why his name is Africa.
Yeah, go first. Then you.
Good evening. My name is Vita Letu, also for its MBA final year. I just wanted to ask, Mike mentioned it, and I think you guys also touched on it with regards to delayed gratification. We live in a world where everything is seen online, and that is deemed a success. People post all these expensive things that they own, influencing and things like that. How would you advise an incoming entrepreneur to stay guarded, and keep the head down and know that the work is worth it. When you're seeing all these people around you who are seemingly in business, making it, make it seem like it's easy, but they're not showing you the back end of the business or what it is, what it takes for them to actually get to that point. So my question is really, how would you advise upcoming entrepreneurs to stay guarded in ensuring that that gratification, when it does come, it still is sweet, even if it's delayed, or even if you're watching.
Before we actually take an answer, let's have that
My question. Hi guys, hi everyone. Sorry, I'm Tata. So I'm a master's candidate in the Entrepreneurship and New Venture Creation program. So I think my question, right, too late in a sense. It's been stated that Africa has the youngest growing population, while at the same breath, the global north is experiencing a depletion with their workforce as aging population. So I think what I want to ask is, how do you see Khonology playing in that space, right? Because we are experiencing brain drainage already as it is. The global north is coming to the global south to take talent, or rather use talent. I don't want to say empower, because it's not a bilateral relationship as yet. So how do you guys see your business model evolving in the next years with this problem or opportunity for the country or continent rather?
Yeah, right.
Shout out, just given to you guys. Sorry,
Can I take, because I have some opinions on both of the questions. So the first one is limiter. Okay. I think the one related gratification, I think, is really important for entrepreneurs. I think there's a duality to it. The first part is the business's finances. It's important to understand the business's finances and the personal finances, and understand the boundaries between those. So once you have that clear line between them, you then have an appreciation of whether the business is really being successful at a bottom line basis. So you may be making good revenue. Is there margin? Are you able to pay everyone? Is that something that the business can sustain? If so, that is the business's success. And then now we can come to your personal success. So how I put it is, there's value creation and there's value capture, so to speak. So have you created value in the business? If so, then you can work on capturing that value in various ways of rewarding yourself as an entrepreneur and all the people involved in the journey of creating that value. I think that's a very important thing to take into consideration. Once you look at it that way, it's very hard to gratify yourself early. To use a random number, a million rand of revenue is not a million rand of profit, it's not a million rand of cash flow. You know, so I mean, this is a business school. We don't have to go through the whole income statement. You guys know what's proper money at the bottom line, right? And then you really see how to reward yourself. And I think the other part of the question that I wanted to address, and also on the point of what we're seeing on social media, that seemingly instant gratification. I think in business there aren't shortcuts. I don't know what's going on in social media, if stuff is real or not. I don't know if everything is real, but I think just stay true to yourself and true to your business. If you know you've created value and you see that there's a legitimate way to reward yourself, I think there's nothing wrong with that, but just make sure it's sustainable. But I think the point I'm getting at is, I don't know, I don't want to be controversial, but there are some businesses that are gaining through unscrupulous or maybe grant means, and those seeming rewards, they seem like they're coming quickly, but it's not the real thing. I think in business, the real thing is the real thing, and you always know. So I think that's my take on the question of instant gratification. If it's real, you'll know when it's time. Both real value, and then yeah, we'll see. And that takes time. I've never seen it happening quickly. Yeah.
Tado's question on the youth Trinity.
Thank you. Tapo's question, I think conceptually, with a large young population here versus in the global north, the concept of export substitution, which is now basically outsourcing and doing work remotely, serving those economies, I think is a big opportunity for our continent. And that's something that we're super passionate about. It's just a matter of taking that talent, doing sales development, and then providing a valuable service offering. So it is something that we are looking at in a big way, both on the services side and on the digital product side with AI, like empowered by AI and blockchain and all those technologies. But I think our continent has a massive opportunity with this large young population to get those digital skills, which are in massive demand, and serve the global north, so to speak, even remotely, without having to move. And the benefit for that is that the income that's earned is spent here, it circulates here, and there's a multiplier effect from an economic perspective. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else can say that.
Can I say something on that last one, Musa, and everybody, hi. I think perceived threats from the global south or north or whoever's talent stealing is the grass is not green on the other side. It's just very much a different shade of green. And yes, we're going to have those people that seek a better adventures, but it's our responsibility to build capacity in this continent. And at some point, those people will be coming back. And at some point, the work will still come back here anyway. And as long as we have young people who are hungry with the right attitude, we can create our own success. I think if we get distracted with the big, hairy objectives or noise that people keep telling us in the papers, then you lose focus. If you focus on your ability to do well and have a positive attitude, you will create opportunities, whether they like it or not. And we're seeing it already. People are looking for outsourcing suppliers and partners in low-cost destinations, and we happen to be the right place at the right time to provide that service.
Thanks very much. Talking from experience, Michael was away in the UK for 13 years, and then he came back home. Yeah. What you have now. More questions, please? There, then here. Oh, 1, 2, 3.
Hi, I'm Tandega and I'm an engineer. So I'm always interested in the founder's mentality. So when you guys started, what was it that you guys held on to say we're going to achieve? Because you didn't have a looking glass to say this is where we're going to be in 10 years. So what were the founders, would you say the principles or founders' mentalities that you guys had to say to push through any difficulties and obstacles that you guys had? And secondly, what are the pragmatic things that actually got you to where you to the space to start? Basically, because a lot of things are the starting inertia of getting from that to rolling to starting. So yeah, founders mentality and the pragmatics.
Actually, I'll take that one and then this one so that we have more people.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Tony. I'm a final year MBA student here at Wits. I'd like to find out if you can be able to demonstrate the resilience and perseverance in the face of challenges or setback while you are working on a sustainability project.
My name is Dr. Judy Dlamini, I'm graduate here at Wits Business School. So my question would be with your products, and because I heard you mention that your product is behind platforms where you be using the banks and all that. So at inception, what was your business model and how you to play in that space? Because I'm sure that there are some companies that you had to compete against to be out there. So what was your guys' business model? Did you start supplying or make your business with SMEs, or did you find that insight? Thanks.
Choose which one. The guy is talking about the
I think I'll take this one from Kandik. I'm going to give you a more scientific answer. But there's still a thing where people argue entrepreneurs are born or they're made.
And I think there's no one right answer. There's a combination of both. And the reason I cannot give a scientific answer is because I feel that from my personal perspective, it was really something that I was destined to do. I think from a problem-solving perspective, just from the way in which I envisioned my life to be, it was always to solve a problem. And it was always to fulfill the purpose. And that is not saying that that cannot be done in a different construct, let's say at a corporate, but I just had a clear vision of how I wanted to execute it. When it came to Khonology, once again, it's not that scientific. By the time we started Khonology, I think Africa and I had already had 3 failed businesses. And sophisticated businesses, I mean, some I'm even embarrassed to say, we had a business with, but I think it was one of those situations where it was just for nothing. And it was just like, really actually make something happen, to have something that's sustainable, to have something that you look back on in a couple of years and say, this is a big difference. And not necessarily to enrich yourselves, but to be able to sit here and have stories about people who have now tripled or tripled their life story. Who have also really whole community with them. That is what fulfills me as an individual. And that's why I think that's what drove me towards entrepreneurship than anything else.
Great. Thandeka, actually, I think you've answered Thandeka's questions. And then Chula Mosanjovu, resilience.
Yes. Mike, I'd like to tag team with you on this one. Because I think that's truly where you see what you're made of. COVID was tough for us. March, I never forget, what is it, late March, if I'm not mistaken? 20th of March, 2020.
Yeah.
20th of March. We're in 6s and 7s. There was a lot of pressure, clients had to cancel contracts. And it got nervy, it got really tough in the sense that you were looking for a plan, but you kept hitting a wall. It literally felt that way. And I remember having a chat with Mike during that time, and we're like, if we were doing 10, then we need to do 100. And if 100 is not there, then we need to do 1,000. And if 1,000 is not working, then we do 10,000. Sometimes I think it was a sprinkle from God, to be honest. Not sometimes, most times. Because September, October, all of a sudden, those constant calls and emails that you were giving, things just lined up out of nowhere. I remember there was 4 contracts between 2 months. Then there was one late December, which basically helped the business survive. And I think that's a value factor to say that we just need to keep going. We can't stop because the responsibility that we have is immense. We were lucky because our chronologists, the people in the organization, even when we went through those rough times, they're like, it's okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing. Let's deliver the work. Irrespective of whatever the numbers are saying, whatever it is that you guys are doing, we're going to keep working and make sure that we deliver the projects from start to beginning. Mike, anything else you want to add into around resilience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is courage. The fact that you step out knowing there's no parachute is almost a sense of madness, but I think the belief is super important that serendipity will play a role, and that if you persist and you hold the courage line and you hold the line, it will happen. I think we almost forced the universe and everything to happen for us because we weren't going to back down. So that's definitely one of the biggest traits I would say for people to be successful is to know that you have to keep knocking on the door. It will open.
Going back to the some clarification. So I had one of the toughest conversations with our partners that I've had in the last 10 years. We've got rentals, we've got cars, we've got houses. And I just say, all right, guys, we're not touching the staff, right? Staff will get paid their salary as per the loan. But I'm going to need a loan. I don't know how I'll pay it back, but can I have 40% of the salary? The guys looked at me Because man, I was watching the practice and I just bought a car, right? But I never think we realized that we built the business before ourselves. And doing that for some time, 3 months, that definitely saved the business. And from the staff retention perspective, that also essentially allowed us to keep the same staff that we had. And if we're chasing the numbers, chasing the glory, I don't think we would have made it out if it wasn't for that. So we want to know that it's not about the glitz, not about the glam. At some point in time, we're the ones going to have to bleed. But we will put the bandage on, we will recover those scars. Will heal. There's no need for fire. We'll just give it time.
Oh, that's amazing.
Wow, that's good.
All right, we think Nico's question around the product and our business model initially versus now. So I think there were three evolutions in our business model. So initially, it's time and material, that's what we call it. And essentially we would charge, so the 7 individuals that were in the training program, once they had completed their training program, they are available to our clients. At that time, we had one client, it was a bank. And essentially they were offering IT services. I think the first project with which Mike amazingly brought to happen was for a Standard Bank and Rosebank when they just moved from Simmons. We were building their trading floor. So I think they have about 300 stations, the biggest dealing room in Africa. With traders, equity traders, bonds traders, all of that. We were setting up their workstations, all their screens, some of them use 8 screens, the Bloomberg terminals, all of that. So that was the first project. We delivered it excellently, and that basically was our first gig, and we were asked to come back again. So that we then started supporting those trading systems, supporting those same traders who were using those systems. If it would break, if something was not right, they would basically be calling a chronologist, and then chronologist would help them to solve their problem. So that was our initial business model. We grew quite substantially from then. But from those 7 people, I think a few months later we had 15. Eventually it was 30. By 2017, we were 140 people in total. So our experience with that business model, immense growth. Together with that we can call it consulting, but it's basically like contracting. We also had our academy, which all the chronologists were closing with our academy, but because they were doing so well at clients were saying, what's this training program of yours that's so special? Can we send our people on this training program? So we started offering IT training, data training as a service. Also, because clients were saying, actually, your people are so good, can you please go and help me find people for my team? We started doing recruitment as a service. So we had 4 different business lines. The other one was what we called enterprise technology or enterprise solutions, where it was your typical SAP called Salesforce implementation. Long story short, we simplified the business. The enterprise solutions business, there was a co-founder who was involved in there. We basically sold off that part of the business. It's called Blue Sky Digital Solutions now. And then the training business, we simplified it. We kept it as internal training. And the recruitment business, we stopped doing altogether. The long story short, it became very complicated. Those were our teenage years where we were doing so many things. We were so busy. On the surface, it looked great. We were winning awards, revenue through the roof, but the profitability wasn't there. And there was just so much risk in the business. And we went from being like 30 or so people to over 100 people. It became so difficult to complicate it. So I think post that 2017, 2018 period, we simplified it. Around those times, we were starting to have deliverable-based engagements. So long story short, client says, this is the scope. I need a banking app, for example, and it needs to have these 7 features. And it's going to be used by 1 million people. I'm making an example. Please build it for us. You have 6 months to create the initial version. We're going to pay a fixed fee every month. you won't pay if you don't deliver, and basically that's how it was working. So we then transitioned the business model from that to now a services or deliverable-based engagement where we're not selling hours necessarily. So if someone goes on leave or if they're not found, then the revenue doesn't dip and now I have to find someone else. That's what made it so complicated with managing 140 people. We simplified the business. I think around 2019, we had about 40 or 50 people. With the separation with Blue Star Digital Solutions, some of the people went to that side of the business, simplified the business a lot better. We're seeing better profit margins, more sustainable, more consistent, more predictable as well. So that's sort of how we transitioned the business into that business model. Now, where we're going, where the future is, we're still doing the deliverable-based engagements, and that's working really well for us. We have some products which will go from ideation through to being in the market used today by the banks. Using that model, and we're still using that model. It's working very well for us. The future for us is now doing digital products that are developed under the Khonology umbrella that we take to market, and we charge a license and a subscription for that. So it's less of a services flow, more the product play, but it's a journey. In order to do it properly and sustainably, we have to be very disciplined in that transition.
But you also want to go beyond the financial services sector to other sectors. Oh, go to 1, 2, 3.
Yes, the way done the business is very innovative. My name is Ruth of Manza. I'm part of the Global Shapers community, which is an initiative of the work we form, but I'm also an electoral engineer by profession. So just a quick question. The banking sector is very non-traditional sector. How have you been able to identify the opportunities on that side? Then the second part is in terms of your skill sets. I understand some of your team members graduated straight from school, then actually started the business. How have you been able to learn your skills, maybe in terms of IT development, DevOps, what's your skill set in that? Then also I see you moving into other platforms. I just said to quick look on your website, going into energy platforms. Do you have maybe some experience in that sector? How have you been able to make that balance?
Thank you. The next one.
Good evening. My name is Helen Koboka. I'm an MBA graduate from the other business school. I also just want to echo a word of congratulations. It really is a remarkable story. My question is more on the soft skills side of things. So, having been together in a partnership for over 10 years, what are some of the values and virtues that have actually enabled you to be able to maintain that partnership over 10 years? I mean, it's very difficult to stay, in a relationship, especially a business one. And I can imagine that over 10 years, lives are involved, right? So your priorities, how have you stayed firstly true and committed to the vision as a collective, and also what values and virtues would you highlight then that have actually taken you to the point that you're at now? And once again, congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. Yes.
Yes, my name is Joel Peterson. As a scholar, I studied organizational architecture and digital development. So when I read your case study, was pretty much blown away then. Okay, obviously I'm a practitioner. I work in Cyprus as a system journalist / architect. And obviously one of the key things that we see when we spoken about it is problem solving and decision making is very, very important. Obviously there's several models that you can use and athletes. But every time is in the leadership levels, you must have a certain level model for you to work with the problem solve and make a decision. I wanted to ask the four of you, that's the four of you. This specific model that you learn in the mental process that you learn to be able to problem solve and make decisions across Africa.
Wow. The last one for this.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nkosi. I am a current student here at WBS. Busy with my master's in digital business. My question is, looking at SA and the rest of Africa, are there industries that are still resistant to digitally transform? Considering that the nature of jobs and the nature of work has changed if you look at the Western world. Are there industries where we should get catching that and transforming others of working that are not able to transform digitally?
Thank you. Thanks very much. I'm happy to repeat Mosa.
Mosa, thank you very much. I think when it comes to opportunities in financial services or banking in particular, what you realize is that the banks want to be the telcos want to be the banks, the manufacturer wants to be Gen AI specialists. And as much as I say that, by no means trying to come across as if I'm condescending the concept. If anything, it's a massive opportunity. Because it allows organizations such as Khonology to leverage economies of scale. Because if I'm able to build a solution, you might have seen it on our website called Power Pulse, which is an energy-based conversation. And the minutes I talk about energy, I know of what's happening. That was a banking product. Same goes for things like your e-contracting concepts. But the minute I say it's a patient record, I know that Dr. Judy is really excited about that, but this is something which is in the legal space. It's been driven in the legal space for years. So we have realized that happening quite a lot. And what it's done for us, it's just driven innovation even more. Because I'm able to take something which is an enabler, but contextualize it in different types of sectors. And this is where it allows for us to become a lot more better. Because if I'm saying, okay, I need to build let me use the example, a patient record. The concept could be not just about digitization, but it's also leveraging the likes of blockchain technology to be able to ensure that that data is being kept honest. Voila, another opportunity on its own. So I think the digitization space is so interesting because it's just constant new things that are popping up, constant challenges. And especially in Africa, whereby we do have real life challenges. This is why the innovation is going to come from here, because we are constantly looking to actually fix for that society more than anything else. So when it comes to the skill sets, on the other hand, it's the same narrative, because what we've seen is a lot of skill sets, such as an engineer, is actually in an IT space because of the way engineers basically think. For instance, they process and how they deliver certain things. Is textbook based. Mike is actually an engineer, believe it or not, but he's brilliant when it comes to IT. People who come from physics, etc., have become incredibly good Java developers. The main thing is to move away from the stigma that if I do physics, then I go to a specific space. But this is why we need way more Khonology type of organizations, because the big challenge is the bridge between school as well as the client side of things. So if we start being able to pivot those things, what you're currently doing could easily change and move into a different world. But that's because the opportunity was given at first hand. So we will always look for talents outside of where everybody else does not necessarily look at. In fact, one of Dapo's BAs is a business management graduate. We don't ever look at that econology, at least we didn't look at that. We always looked at the STEM, but the training session allowed for her to start doing, and she puts it just like that. And today she's an incredible BA. So this is why I say that the platforms such as these, they open up anybody through the door to be able to become the best that they can be, even if it's in technology.
I think Helen's question on the soft skills, the partnership, being in a long-term relationship, shared values and virtues, I think it all comes down to that. It's those shared values and those virtues, the typical ones of gratitude, humility, respect. I think those will take you a long way in any space. Integrity, super important. Accountability isn't a value in itself, but it's a way of being true to your values. So making sure that you value accountability, and when you say accountability, you're ready to be held accountable yourself. So I think that's something that we value, that
we're ready to be called out and ready to call each other out. Fortunately, it doesn't need to happen that often. I don't know, it's maybe by God's grace, I don't know. But we tend to have the same values and believe the same and sort of think in the same way. Sometimes that's you sort of need an outside perspective, but on core issues like core big decisions, we tend to see things the same way. I mean, the conversation Dapo had with us during COVID about the pay cut, I mean, it hurt a little bit, but you fully understood. We didn't debate it for 3 hours and tried to cut it another way. We're like, oh, okay, no, it is what it is. Let's make it happen. So I think it just helps to be true to your own values. That's the first test. And then it helps when you're working with people who also are true to their own values. It just means it's a more fruitful and honest relationship. I think, and then,
Garrett. Garrett is the mental model that you use.
So one of the concept that we teach everybody in Khonology, whether you're a senior or junior, is the concept of design thinking and how to approach problems. And even though it is doesn't really stem from IT or information technology, it is very applicable to the type of solutions that we have. But when we see the value of design thinking manifest is being able to apply that to your day-to-day life, right? It's being able to, take the model, look at some more sides, actually empathize with what the problem is, understand it fully before we jump in. But then we believe that we never think we're the smartest in the room and nobody know what the answer is, right? We think we're such a somebody, I don't know, it's bullshit. But I appreciation for what the issue is. So I think being able to say design the side for doing our employees and we conduct our business, it tries help us.
I think that the other big thing is being able to add value quite quickly. That's very important in the space that we're in. I think it's long gone where you've had waterfall concepts where you go into this whole something and then you pop out 6 months later, and by the time you have that chat, Dr. Judy wants something completely different because the landscape has changed. So applying Agile framework, for instance, allows for us to be able to showcase that value every single, probably every single 2 sprints, which is basically a month. So we're in a space where we need to see value quite quickly. That's what IT has definitely driven. And I think you can take that concept even in entrepreneurship to say, okay, if I'm going to start something, how do I show value? What's the value? Just going back to that practical part of the thing that you were alluding to. What's the value that I'm giving that people say, okay, I will give you $10 for this service. And I think if we all can start having that mindset of the value you're looking to give, that people will come back to you for across South Africa, I think that a lot of things will basically change, particularly from an unemployment point of view. So even as us, just going back to the values conversations, the real synergy is the fact that everybody in the organization feels like they also need to provide value. It's a small circle, whether it's a team, whether it's a strategic decision, what's the value that you're basically going to be bringing in whatever decision making that you're going to take on.
Right. And Tsakapatso was asking about industries that are lagging.
the ones we've been exposed to at a high level is not resisting digitization. We haven't come across that. I think one of the major accelerators of the digital transformation is the pandemic and all the remote working and the change in the way of working that came with. I think we've been exposed very much in the financial services space, in aviation, equipment manufacturing, agriculture, mining, energy, there's transportation as well. All of those industries, the people we've engaged with are hungry for digitization. A lot of the conferences we go to, whether it's Africa Tech Week, which is focused on tech, but different kinds of industries that are attending there, even in the energy space, there's a lot of hunger for digitization. So we're not necessarily seeing any resistance to it, but there are different maturity levels. So For example, in the telco space, that is very mature when it comes to technology, digitization. In a way, the telcos are like tech companies first and foremost, you know, so there's a lot of maturity there. In the financial services space, particularly in South Africa, it's very mature in certain spaces. I think when it comes to payments, very mature. Capital markets, very, very mature as well. There's a lot of maturity in those spaces. I think in agriculture, there's certain pockets. There's a company called Aerobotics, which operates, it's a South African homegrown company. They basically use robotics and AI to monitor the health of the leaves on trees. And they basically, the Western Cape has a lot of agriculture, a lot of citrus that's grown there. They have massive adoption in those farms, you know, so there's a heavy maturity in those spaces. So what we're seeing is, it depends where you're looking. Everybody's hungry for it, but I think there's just different maturity levels and different adoption levels when it comes to that. I don't know if anyone else has anything, any other takes, or if Michael wants to.
Do you want to come in, Michael, on any of the questions?
I think the guys have said everything fantastically in terms of the articulation of where we are in terms of journey. I made some notes. I think digitization is a journey that needs a lot of effort, and it is the future. It's not something to fear, but something to embrace. And I think that's the opportunity that we have as a continent and as a country to join in that journey. Everyone wants to automate, look at digital processes to improve things. That increases upskilling. That means we need to step up to the mark and be part of that journey. And I think it's quite exciting, a future for everybody. Tech can play a real role in Africa's opportunity to jump the normal components and get to be competitive state with everybody else. I think we should be excited by this opportunity.
Thanks, Michael. The last two questions over there and here. What about this side? I'm so sorry, damn it.
Hi, so thanks, guys. So I am from the Blue Bank. So my name is Serge. I head up automation engineering, so that's AI, machine learning, robotics. I guess you know, Africa as a whole, we drive our growth, right? That's center bank. So I'm very into skills development and we look at intern programs. So I think your model is brilliant. I'm just curious in terms of skills development for South Africa, in terms of skilling people and obviously not being paid for that. So, for example, you run a skills program. Is it free to people that are keen to get onto this program? And if it is, how do we have a partner? And I think maybe that's something we take offline, but just more around the skills program. Is it free for anyone to join it? And if so, how do they go about doing that?
Thank you. Over here.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca. I'm also a student here at Wits. I believe these are indeed exciting times. I can already see the case study coming up for the next cohort, which is really brilliant because as Dr. Judy has said, I mean, we've been going through case studies. Some of them are good. We've always complained that they are good and outdated. So these are indeed exciting times. My question is that based on your experience, and you don't necessarily have to disclose any information from the banks, but it's actually a follow-up question to her question earlier on. What enhances adaptability of technology when you compare the banking industry with other industries, like looking at health and other services related industry? My take with ICT or IT in general has been that we are obviously trying to adopt the technology within our operations, but the way it's introduced, there's no human centricity within it. It's as if it's there, you need to implement it, but there's no proper change management. A lot of processes are not followed. What have you picked up to be a key factor with regard to adoption within the financial as compared to any other, if you do have background information on that?
I owe this side. Apologies.
Wait for the mic. I don't need the mic. It's not working. Oh, can you guys hear me? That's right. Okay, cool. Amazing. Okay, that's working. It's really amazing story. I have not gotten hold of the case study. I can't wait to read it. My name is Dlamini, and I am 7 years. I'm my PhD completed 2020.
Yeah.
And I had options, but I am actually lecturing since adulthood. I lecture in global business and trends in management, and I think I'm running out of case studies to share. I'm done with last person in saying all the success service. But my question is actually to Dr. Dlamini. What is your plan for this kind of case studies? Because I believe that we don't tell our success stories enough. When I started lecturing in that particular business school, I was actually lecturing the unemployed postgraduate. So the whole idea of the program, business skills, they had obviously different degrees of backgrounds of study. And a large number of them actually wanted to be employed by somebody. And a few of them who have tried entrepreneurial journey, when they fail, they quit. And not even a single day that I had an opportunity to invite people like yourselves to come share your story. That it's okay to fail sometimes in the entrepreneurial journey, but look where you at. Last question is to you guys to say, what are you guys doing? I know you're very busy. I'm not underestimating the work that you're doing. What are you doing to influence the communities, and especially the African communities? Because I believe that entrepreneurial spirit is not as embraced as in different communities. Thank you. Well,
Is there anyone else this is the last batch of questions. Thank you. Thanks. So we'll answer them and then you'll have the last word, each one of you. Sage, Standard Bank Skills.
So yes, regarding the skills programs that we have, there are two kinds. The first one is where we train chronologists, people that we potentially will employ who work as technologists in different roles, business analysts, developers, testers, designers, solution architects, delivery managers, and so on. So that program is done in partnership with an organization called Africa Tikkun. And through that partnership, they would find in their network, they would have a number of young people, number of them being unemployed, some of them having completed their education, but not finding employment. So we would then do a program with them where we would then provide those skills, basically in a classroom format over 8 weeks. So for that, that's in partnership with Africa Tikkun, but we have previously partnered with other corporates and we're very happy to do it. So happy for us to have a conversation offline about how we can partner. And then the other kind of training that we do is more ad hoc, where we can go to a client organization like a bank or an asset manager or an insurance company, and they want to learn about data analytics, for example. We've run programs of different lengths, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes a 3-day program, where the one program we did was with executives, so about 15 executives in one of the business units. We train them on data analytics and how they can make data-driven decisions in running their business. And then taking that back to say, how do you then get this data, which is going to help you make those data-driven decisions? So that was then the execution part, where we then worked with their teams who are responsible for capturing data, updating data, keeping it clean, and then surfacing it onto the reports that help the executives make decisions. So we do run programs like that, and we'd be very happy to partner as well on that kind of program as well. So the first one that I was talking about, that is free to attend because that's a sponsored program where it's sponsored by Khonology and Africa to Pull. Even others that we've done with corporates, that was sponsored by Khonology and the corporate. And then the second one, which is more exec training or staff member training, that one is sponsored by the client organization, and then we would do that as a service. And we typically would customize it based on the needs. If people can be away from their desks for 4 days at a time, we've done that where we ran it over actually 10 months. And once a month for 4 days, they would come to a room like this, and then we'd do very practical hands-on data analytics work, Python programming, Power BI analytics, all of that. Or if it needs to be shorter, we can do that as well. So I think we can have a conversation with some detail about that.
It's actually the adoption.
Right. On your question around the adoption of technology, let's say, broadly speaking, in financial services. So the thing about financial services is that it's a very heavily regulated industry or market. One little mess up could lead to a financial institution losing their banking license or their ability to operate. And typically speaking, when the regulator will come in and assess your practices and your processes, saying that it's manual is not enough. So there's certain controls and there's certain provisions that you need to make in a system. So companies with financial services have been forced to adopt technology a bit more because it relates to their business operation. Where we see other, and within the financial services sphere, there's those who do it because they have to, and there's those who do it for segment penetration and new client segmentation. So we have things like the digital banks, which are hyper-scaled on the technology factor to reach a new customer base. And we can see the success that these digital banks have had in terms of growing that user base quite significantly. And one most recently, we'll name the names, but they've been able to be the first digital bank to actually turn a profit. Right, so there's a stake and an incentive when it comes to technology from the financial services perspective, but that doesn't mean that that's the only industry which is accustomed to certain services. There are other industries where it's more around the manual process, right? For instance, in healthcare, there's still a lot of manual processes that have been run, and that's just the history of it or the operations. But there's massive opportunities to digitize that. And there's certain people within the healthcare industry who are coming with really, really good healthcare solutions, which are digital first, which the likes of the banks can't even imagine around grasping that type of concept. So it really depends on what the incentive is. Is it the stake or is it in terms of reaching a new customer base?
In fact, in the health space, we were fortunate to have partnered with the likes of HSEI, which is a branch from Wits, Health Systems Enablement and Innovation. I think that's what it stands for. And they were also talking about the same thing, that there's a big challenge in being able to drive adoption on the ground, particularly in the health space. And I think that's because adoption does get neglected. I think it's because there's just fatigue. You build, test, go live. And then by the time there's adoption, you've run out of resources. People have maxed out. And I think what it's really done is it's removed the potential of being able to leverage technology in that space. So how do we basically reverse that thinking? It goes back to what I was explaining to gentlemen. We need to do it in an agile way, where you prove value quickly so that you can drive the adoption quickly, even if it's a small business, because there's a ripple effect. It's like a cell phone. The minute there's a cooler cell phone here, somebody's going to ask, somebody's going to get, and then before you know it's, we all have these cell phones. So it's the same effect to say that we do need to start these things in much more smaller scales, prove those concepts, and then we can be able to do them across different spaces. The minute you try go big bang, it's very difficult to be able to drive that adoption because you're not also getting the feedback as to where the challenges are. It's different opinions.
Influence to the communities.
So that one is actually quite a special one for us, the influence towards the communities, because we have decided to work with other organizations who have that power, that ability to extend to communities, even in areas that we're not capable of doing that. There's one which is called Empower Youth Summit.
ULP is a massive driver also when it comes to these things, unleashing leadership potential. And I think those organizations are deliberate and they focus on empowerment. So whether that is in health, IT, etc., they are the vehicle that actually pushes it every single day. And as Khonology, our responsibility is to arrive at us. The minute there's something that says empowerment, we know it's, hey, what's up? You need to go and empower people, whether it's communication, creating connection, whatever the model basically is. And I think it's very important for us, especially in Amalukshim, to start actually leveraging off each other's capabilities, because you can't be having so many of these organizations doing the same thing. You know, it doesn't, it's just not scalable. We actually should be leveraging off each other's strengths. If this is your strength, how do we work together? If that's one strength, how do we eventually partner? And I think this is something that we can also even learn with the likes of Silicon Valley. Not everybody's doing payments. This one will do this, this one will do that, but they'll use that as technology. And I think this is where the growth should be from an African point of view, to avoid this replicates of the same things again and again. How do we create a forum that allows for all of us to actually collaborate through our strengths?
Can I just say something? Let's take it digital. Let's take it digital. Speaking is good, but it was off event. But I'll take it offline with you.
I'll ask actually each of the founders 1 minute, last word. I'll answer your question when I wrap up. Thanks.
I think it's the more of these journeys. There's so many amazing minds, amazing organizations that are in South Africa, in Africa, etc. And I think our responsibility as Khonology is to share these organizations with the likes of this business school, so that we don't have just the Khonology here. You know, I can say actually there's another organization that I'd like to bring that's got a strong in data governance and this and that and whatever speciality that's there. We have a friend in the room, Chancellor, right there. He's got a huge ecosystem of small businesses which are doing amazing things across the continent. And it's all good sitting in our little WhatsApp groups, but we actually need a pipeline of way more of these stories, because who knows, maybe this graduate, MBA graduate here is going to start something that creates more of these case studies actually starting to come out. And I think this is where the likes of Silicon Valley have been able to be established, because the community knows about each member within that ecosystem. I think maybe just to dovetail on that. I'm really passionate about digitizing Africa, very passionate about moving the Africa talent. However, we can't do it alone. And there's a very interesting mindset in business where you see yourself as an island. You see everybody outside of you around as a competitor. And when you look at every economies that have been built, they haven't been built in isolation. And those haven't been built in very minor view of, I need to do something for myself. So if we cannot collaborate and come together and actually prove that we do have talent, and prove that we can take the next step in terms of our generation, in terms of building something that's sustainable, building something that has a legacy, I think we'll be cutting ourselves short in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of our purpose. So I think what I'm trying to say is that collaboration is key to taking anything forward, or taking this country forward, moving forward. And working together is not taking away from you all that you're trying to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think I don't have much more to say. I think I'm really excited by this process and this journey, the opportunity to tell the story, and really excited about all the other stories that are going to come from this room and Wits Business School and even other business schools. Just highlighting, the reality of the talent that exists here and the businesses and the problems that we really can solve. So I just want to encourage everyone to say, go for it. Your business ambition, go for it. Just practice your resilience to get through all those difficult moments and really, make it happen.
Michael?
Hi, yeah, thanks. We've gone to say some great stuff, but I think my statement would be, making a big change or making a big difference is a team sport. And it requires all of us to participate and collaborate and bring up our role to the table and add value. And I think it goes from corporates to industries, to businesses, to people at university. we all have a role to play. And I think the real opportunity for us is to be accountable to that role and stand and be counted. And to be stand and be counted means you've got to go through some hard times and be willing to do what it takes. And I think we have the opportunity to do that. And it's great to see people who are great role models that can have done this, that are doing it. I think we need more of them. We need a lot more role models to make this a successful journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks especially, Gerald, for reading the case study. I know not everyone received it, but those that were able to read it, great. Thanks, Lazola, for reminding us that not everyone has read it. I appreciate that. You know, there's so much to be learned by lifting as you rise, right? If you look at Ubongane, as I call him, the head of school, he is the mentor that saw something in chronology before anyone else did, and he stayed close to them. We need mentors. Everything that we have can change the spaces where we find ourselves and the continent because we use it to make life better for others. Would you agree? Yes. Everything you have, everything you know, you have to share it with others that need it, especially in this country where everyone in this room is so privileged. The issue is, what are you doing with the privilege that you have? I also want to thank you because I've always wanted to write case studies. And that doc was led by knowing how I became whatever I became from seeing someone who looks like me who was that, you know? And there's power in actually role modeling your aspiration for that child in the village and the community who thinks it's impossible until they see you, right? 1, 2, I've always believed that we have what it takes as a country and as a continent, whether it's in the rural areas, whether it's in the townships. We are not less because where we were born and how we showed up when we were born in terms of race and all the social dimensions we come in. It's opportunity and someone saying you can, and I'll help you to become. So that has been my drive. I wasn't born with the talent to write. The only reason I wrote my first book was to share the stories of success of people from this continent have to be shared. And at all levels and in all sectors. When you come to academia, the case studies have to be shared. So I'll be coming to you because the main reason I continue to study in my 60s is because I believe there is something else to be done, right? And I have passion for entrepreneurship because I never aspired to work for anyone. I always knew I want to work for myself, right? And when you look at the areas where we come from, the prestige is given to corporate work, you know? We don't give much prestige to starting your own thing, failing, trying again, you know? And I think that has to change. That will only change if we change the ecosystem in our country. And that ecosystem has so many actors and so many factors. And it's about having a framework that will work, especially for the most marginalized. I have this expression that I love that says, if you want to solve for everyone, you have to solve for the most disenfranchised, because the fires will fly, but those people need your support. So I just want to say thank you so much, Prof. Mills, and thanks for the indulgence. And thanks very much, Michael, for everything that you've been able to do, Dapo, Africa, Musa. Your story has to be shared because it's bigger than just having a business that has lasted for more than 10 years. It's having a business that is based and sustained by a value system that keeps you together. You know, when you look at the young people and you look at social media and the things that we actually post, that most of the time are not even real, where we have businesses where you actually can't even touch it, where we promote buying 1% from someone else's business as opposed to starting your own. Yes, it's hard, but it's sustainable and it makes us better as a people. I love your story and so many different things. And I would like everyone who has access to entrepreneurs, especially Black entrepreneurs in all their shades, because I'd love to tell those stories at the business schools and everywhere else. Even in the township, one of the things I do is to go to township and rural schools to give books, but talk about what's in the book and the people that look like you that survived and actually thrived in spite of the disadvantage they were born into. Thank you so much. I can go on and on and on.
Say wow. This is awesome, man. This is Judy, really, you are amazing because we really thank you. You know, being our chancellor, but at the same time coming down and writing the stories of these young people is amazing. I'm very proud of you, you know that. I'm so blessed to see you, man. You're really my pride. Let me tell you about the new development. I also, like since you're very passionate about entrepreneurship because my grandfather started a small business and took through that business the entire family, the Hadebe clan, out of poverty. So the poverty that is surrounding this country, I want you to share this vision that I share, that one day we should put poverty into a museum. Do you agree with me? Yeah, raise up your hand, man. And it's through entrepreneurs. And because of that, with the support of from my leadership here, Professor Jason, the VC Zebulon, we are starting here at Wits Business School a Center for Entrepreneurship and Venture Creation. And we want to take it out of the academic institution. So it's going to be in the inner city of Johannesburg. You remember those buildings, Anglo-America, commercial town?
Yeah.
Was acquired a building where it's going to be the center of entrepreneurship. And that building is going to create the ecosystem we're talking about. Because it's an ecosystem. What you mentioned in the US is the ecosystem that includes digitalization, includes technology, but includes funders, includes venture capitalists, includes actually an appointment next week with some potential venture capitalists that who want to say, hey, we want to support this. So whoever is doing that, so we'll employ full-time, not the case rate. But you understand what she's writing about, value-based businesses. Because this continent, the biggest enemy of this continent is corruption. So if you can have value-based businesses. So if you're ready, please just register. If you've got a story to tell, register with her. She'll come and talk to me and I will basically write your story and bring it all over the world. That's what we need to do. So thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless you.
Folks, so we got to first place, please. As I'd like to continue the conversation. outside, please do so. Thank you very much.